Yeah, she.
It is?
It is.
Oh.
Okay. I'm sorry.
She had. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Science.
I know, I've had them years ago.
My wife gets them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
My sister gets them.
I had them years ago, and it's,
Back and forth, I'm not
you
moving.
think you're gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever that started is what that's where I was raised. The last couple of days, I didn't feel that.
We can sit here? Yes.
Hey, evening.
What's that?
Good evening.
We are.
Good evening.
I'd be really mad. Thank you, Brandon. Steve. He went to grocery shop.
Is he gonna get us some? I put it at 68 earlier. Can I turn it down?
It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, we also, that's what I was saying earlier.
It'll take a while.
What is fire cooking?
Good luck. That was the other question right now.
Yeah. I guess that's what they feel like fire marshal type
My fiance.
I heard you now.
The state. That's how No, I didn't even tell him because he don't need to be getting worked up. No, but I don't need anything going on with me, so.
You can scoot down, that's
Good to see you.
Line, the other way.
one gentleman down there told me that these are the places where the heroes
They're already, they're already.
That's why they were.
No. Well, and that's just the problem. I didn't think it said I can't send anywhere in town.
Yeah, but you know,
You'd have to get a tape measure.
Now that looks good.
It is.
That's down the roof.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I got you.
this just recently, this.
They post.
Of course. It saved me a seat.
You probably forgot.
I'm sorry,
He's probably
I was out last minute.
I think I can still see something else.
Yep, if you go after the door, right to the left.
No, he is. So that answers that. Yeah, that answers that.
Might be late.
He doesn't like it, and then, and I don't like it. Yeah.
Sir?
I gotta say though, so that's really good.
Yeah, generally, it's right, yeah,
Very good.
There's nothing new. Oh, I was shutting it off. When he said that, I said, yeah, I was. Asking her something. I was testing it. Where do you live? Somewhere right Oh, okay. He's gonna watch it? Really? He's like my biggest. No, this is not Yeah, I thought it was not bad.
We got a pledge before we start the meetings. He's gonna bring it to order and then pledge. I like
Oh yeah, she's outside. You know my brace. Good. She brought a chair. This is outside.
Now it's a dating center. It's a dating. Girl, that's the
dating something. All right.
Wow,
It'll be fine.
I'm not worried about it. I wish we had this kind of turnout for like voting and other stuff.
Yeah, I know. Right. Every once in a while we'll do something like this and have a little party.
You sure we're gonna be able to do this in here, not take it out there? Because that whole parking lot is full of people.
There's a speaker out there and hopefully people move.
We'll go outside. We'll do it.
That'd be good.
No, I just wanted to tell you so I.
You're on your own, buddy.
Yeah. I think it's too big to send, that's why I
I would like to bring the hearing to order and welcome everybody for this hearing for the rezoning for data center information. This is a hearing for this, and I'm going to open with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'm going to turn the meeting over to, or the hearing, over to Attorney Harold.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. As the chairman said, this is the time and the place for the hearing, the public hearing, to consider the proposed ordinance of Codorus Township. The title of the ordinance is an ordinance amending the Codorus Township, York County, Pennsylvania zoning ordinance to permit data centers in the general commercial zones of the township and to provide for the regulation of data centers. Let me be clear. There is no data center that we know of planned for Codorus Township. There is no data center that we have received requests for plans. There is no data center that, to the best of our
They
knowledge...
can't hear outside. They're asking to turn it up.
Did you turn that in?
We can try.
You might have to move that even closer.
Oh.
If that's the case, how come you wanna change the?
There will be a time, we're gonna get to some ground rules here in a minute.
Yeah.
But right now, nobody is permitted to talk.
Especially since we voted these people in, vote you out.
It's as loud as it will go. You will have to get up close and personal with the microphone. It's just how it's designed.
As I was saying, we do not know of any data centers which are currently eyeing Codorus Township as their home. Having said that, let me also be clear that under the Pennsylvania law, under the zoning laws of Pennsylvania, which this township falls under, this township is not permitted to prohibit data centers within its confines. That is not something that this township can do. All townships, all municipalities in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have to provide for legal uses. We can prohibit illegal uses. We can say that you can't have an illegal drug manufacturing plant, right? We can do that. But we cannot prohibit legal uses in this township. That is the law of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There's nothing that we can do about it. Okay? If you have a problem with that, take it up with the state legislature, not with us. What we can do is we can restrict and delineate where those legal uses are placed within this township. And that is what this township ordinance proposes to do. This township ordinance proposes to limit the location of any data center which would come into this township if it did to the general commercial zone. It also sets forth about 25 pages of regulations for that data center. Without an ordinance like this, a data center could come into this township under what is called a special exception. If we do not have a set criteria in our zoning ordinance, if we do not provide where the data center can be located within in our township, it is what is called a use not provided for, and the data center could come in and simply apply for what is called a special exception. A special exception is a permitted use within the township, and as long as they show about 5 or 6 different things, then they would be permitted to place that data center within this township. Okay? And we would not, at that point, be able to place all of these restrictions. So what this ordinance has tried to do, what the supervisors have asked me to draft, and what they are attempting to do is to set in place certain requirements of data centers, if data centers were to come here, so that this township and its residents are protected to the greatest extent possible. Okay? Now, this has been a work in progress. I remember Mrs. Buck bringing an article from a Lancaster newspaper to this meeting a couple of months ago, and it got this conversation started. Okay, 7 months ago. And it has been a process ever since. It has gone through, it has been reviewed by what we call the Codorus Township Planning Commission, as is required by the municipality's planning code. It has been sent to the York County Planning Commission for their comment, and it is here tonight, properly advertised, as is again required by the municipality's planning code, and the township is required to hold this public hearing before any official action can be taken on this proposed ordinance. Now, we are going to have a couple of ground rules for this evening. First and foremost, the supervisors expect and will demand that this be a civil conversation. There will not be interruptions, there will not be outbursts, there will not be unruly behavior, and if anybody is unruly, they will be asked to leave. A public hearing is just that, it is a hearing. It is slightly different than what some of you may be accustomed to with, for example, public comment. If there are specific questions that somebody wishes to ask of the board, we do have the professional engineer here. If you want to ask a question, you may. Whether or not we can answer it, I don't know the answer to that. You know, there will be some you may have some technical questions. Again, Jeff is a professional engineer. I don't want to diminish any of his qualifications, but I don't think that he is a data center engineer. And so he will answer any questions that he can answer. We will limit comments to 3 minutes apiece. Okay, there are obviously a lot of people here. I'm sure a lot of people want to make public comment. And so in an attempt to get as many public comments in as possible, we will limit those comments to 3 minutes. We will also limit comments to residents and taxpayers. So when you come up to the front, and again, we're trying our best to make it so that people outside can hear. So if you come up to the front, please talk into the microphone. Please state your name and your address so that we can confirm that you're a resident of the Township of Codorus. The final sort of rule of the road that I have is that we will have a strict curfew this evening of 9 o'clock. Okay? It will be up to the supervisors to determine whether or not they feel that they have had sufficient testimony, sufficient comment to make a decision on this matter at that time, if we haven't finished before then. If they believe that more deliberation, more comment is warranted, we will pause this hearing and we will set the date and time for the next public hearing. Okay? On the other hand, if they determine at the curfew that they have essentially heard what they need to hear and that they're prepared to make a decision, then we're going to move forward with making a decision after that in a public meeting. I would open it up to everybody in the front and ask if I missed anything that you think I need to address.
Sounds good.
Other than that the people outside can come in if they're residents and make a statement.
Yes, if somebody has not been able to get inside, but is a resident and wishes to come in, please try to make way. The other thing that I would say that I failed to mention is if what you're planning to say is substantially similar to what somebody else has already said, please say it's what that guy said. Okay, you know, we get it, and we're trying to be efficient. We're trying to eliminate as much duplication of effort as is possible. So please do us that favor. If you're able to just, you know, not repeat somebody, that would be helpful. Final thought is we have a stenographer here tonight. She is a professional. She is paid to be here and she has a job to do. She absolutely cannot do that job if multiple people are talking at the same time. Please, 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 for her sake, keep it to one person speaking at a time, because her job is absolutely impossible to do if everybody's talking at once.
And we truly do want to hear from everybody that wants to speak, so.
So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Charlie.
So I guess we're going to take the first, how are we going to do this?
Well,
Should I just?
Are you gonna tell us what the provisions?
yeah, I mean, it just occurred to me.
Yeah.
So basically what this is doing is this is saying that a data center can come into the general commercial district of Codorus Township if it meets various criteria. Okay, I'm not going to go through every single criteria. I'm not going to read 25 pages. This is single spaced ordinance. But what we try to do is we try to account for things like setbacks. We try to account for things like environmental impacts. We try to account for things like noise, utility, water. All of these things we attempt to control, okay? Now again, we cannot control everything. We can't control it to a point that essentially makes it impossible, because then we're just running afoul of the law, right? So if we made the restrictions so restrictive that it simply didn't permit a data center, then we're just prohibiting data centers, and that's going to be against the law. We have electromagnetic requirements. Again, I talked about noise. We have vibration requirements. We have requirements that if emergency responders are necessary, what we're doing to account for that. We have ensuring specialized firefighting equipment is readily available. There is the requirement of a water feasibility study. I know that is a concern here regarding the aquifers. This has the requirement for a water feasibility study prior to the emplacement of any data center. We have threatened and endangered species. Essentially, an environmental impact report has to be prepared. Okay, we encourage green building products or green building techniques. We have requirements for decommissioning. Okay, so this is the wave of the future, but it may not be the wave of forever, and you know, who knows what the future holds. So we have provided that any data center that comes in here has to provide a plan that if they stop, what's going to happen to the building and the property afterwards. And we require financial security to ensure that that decommissioning can take place. We have requirements, or we have enforcement provisions, and that's kind of an overview of this. Okay. So, I think.
As far as, should I just go one of the?
Sure. Yeah. However you want to run it is.
And then when you step up here to top, we would like your name and address, so it's on record. So, I guess we're open it to public comment.
Good evening, my name is Douglas Hammond, and I live at 2523 Codorus Lane here in Spring Grove. And my reaction to this ordinance is simply that it is not ready yet. Look, I've read it, and I think there's a lot of reasons why it's not ready. Look, I hear that we have to make it possible under the law to be compliant with the state. But that doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice a lot of things that make sense for us in our community. This could be a 300,000-foot building. But did you know that it only has to be 300 feet from your home? It's right there. Did you know that in this ordinance there are sound restrictions on it? But the limitations on those sound restrictions are so narrow. If you're walking on a trail, that's not included. You could be hearing this thing in the woods trying to mind your business and mind your peace. There's no restriction. It can be at however many decibels it wants in that case. These are just two examples. But I think we're going to hear throughout tonight, look at this massive audience, the response of how we all believe that in our community for this particular ordinance, it's not ready yet. And I think that we could agree that it can be more restrictive. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. We'll go with that guy. He was pretty quick.
Hi, Web Burrier, live at 4300 Schaefer's Church, right down the street. I'm the Dolphin House. If you see the dolphins on the corner, that's me. Save my dolphins water. I have a couple questions. In the zoning map, the existing plots down at the corner, they're zoned off, but they're not marked off in black. So it's basically zoned agricultural and commercial for one plot. I did a quick Google Earth. You could fill 150,000 square feet on either side. You've got the natural gas. I think we need to shrink the dimensions of what happens, excuse me, what happens to the rest of that parcel that's zoned agricultural. Does it, because it's half agricultural and half commercial, does that commercial take over? Because they can throw, I didn't even Google Earth that, but that's got to be 500,000 square foot on either side of the, okay? I think we need to narrow down and narrow down what has to be done to keep that, if you have to zone those commercial areas, to keep them so it doesn't infringe onto the agricultural side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Joanne Beer, 6641 Stelz Road. My question is, I'm concerned if we don't do anything soon, tonight, quickly, so that if somebody comes in and wants to try to buy up land, they'll say, well, you didn't have these ordinances in place, and so I don't have to follow them. That's my fear. So my question is, can we move forward with what maybe you have and continue working on that? Would that be a good way to make sure that these data center places don't slide in before we get anything in place? That's my question.
Now, as far as answering that, how do we want to?
You're gonna need the microphone in front of you.
Sorry, I didn't make you work.
I mean, yes. The short answer is yes. A little bit more nuanced is simply because somebody purchases land doesn't necessarily, they would have to move forward with plans for an actual data center before they would, be able to say, hey, we're outside of the realm of these restrictions. I don't know this. I'm not an expert. Right now, I don't think that Codorus Township has the infrastructure support for a data center, but I don't know that. I mean, they require a lot of power, is what I know, and I don't know if they have that infrastructure support right now.
And I would like to get Jeff to add the fact that we do have, it's not like we don't have any zoning that prohibits. Correct. I mean,
Right, so I think it was made, the case was made at the beginning that you have zoning regulations in place. Attorney Harold has said, right now you're not addressing the use for a data center. So to answer your question, if you put an ordinance in place, it would have regulations that could be tightened or loosened or adjusted to your will, to their will, as you move forward. Right now, we do not have regulations, and I think that's the primary concern.
well, but we do have land, like he was saying, you still have, it's still a,
It's going to have to meet your current zoning regulations. I think the fear is those regulations are not tight enough for the concerns that are present.
But I guess what I was trying to say, it's not like they could just come in here and build it. Right now. It would be easier than with this. Yes, sir.
Andy, I have something to add to that.
Yep.
For a question.
Yep.
If I could have them, could I just say something quick?
Sure.
I don't think they can hear this outside anyway.
Can't hear it outside.
They can't.
Put it up to your face, use it like you would, you were singing a song.
So, and you guys can clarify this with me, but as far as I know, and the information that I received is that if a data center developer comes with a formal plan and a letter of intent, and this ordinance isn't on the books, they regulate what they do to a point.
To a point.
With a special exemption, and the doors are wide open. The other thing, and we talked about this before, and to my ignorance, and I've driven past it hundreds of times, but we have a 500 kV transmission line 2 miles south of our township. That's in Maryland, but it's not hard to get electric from there to here. And so we don't have the infrastructure, but we do have the infrastructure. I just wanted to note that to your comment. Did you hear that outside?
I'm sorry,
I didn't hear it.
My name's Adele Mason, 6465 Stultz Road. I have two questions. One, where is the waste being allotted for that will be created from a data center? I'm sure there's some waste product that we're going to have to deal with. The second is, who benefits from these data centers? And is there a way, I mean, you say that we can't not allow it, but who's benefiting from it?
State.
Who gets the money? Who gets the money? Not us.
Government.
Politicians.
Not us.
Any comments? Hold on, I gotta get this guy in here. Well,
I know, I'm good.
we got time.
Jerry Henley, 11961 Rockville Road. Jason can validate I live in the township. A comment and question. One, somebody was talking about 150,000 square foot building.
Correct.
Right? But that with the setbacks, most data centers are going to be bigger than 150,000 square feet. Also, I agree with the board, you need to get something on the books because most of this Codorus is not commercial, so that limits them a lot. But like they said, they buy my farm and Kurt's farm next to me and the one on the other side, they'll have 500 acres. They could put it right there right now. And, you know, nobody wants to sell, but I mean, somebody offered me $4 million for my farm. 40. I'd be gone. You know? So, what?
When you're done.
But that's all I'd like to say is, one, we need to get something on the books. I work for an engineering company that designs data centers. I don't want one here.
And with that, what Jerry had alluded to, with that, because I did the dimensions, when we first sent this to York County Planning Commission, their recommendations back to us were that we don't have qualified ground with the setbacks we originally had to support a data center. So we had to change the setbacks, which we did, to allow 100,000 square feet, the minimum size of what a data center would be. Because if we would not, like Andy stated earlier, if we make it that they can't build one, that's just about as bad as not having an ordinance to regulate them.
They're asking
Charlie,
why.
Why what?
They want to know why.
Why what?
Why it's just as bad to
not have an ordinance?
Because they can challenge it.
It's been years.
If it's not suitable to build a data center, if the ground, so if you say, well, we're gonna give you 1 acre ground to build 100,000 square foot build a data center on it can't happen. That's not suitable, so we had to change the setbacks in order to make that. And 100,000 square feet, it just makes it. In 2 properties only in the township.
Because of lawyer fees, that's why you can't not have something, because they'll file suit and you'll be years in court.
Yes, they will take us to court and we will not win, I'm afraid. Charlie?
Let's go over here, Frank. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Isabella Frame. I live at 3821 Styx Road. I'm 21 and I've lived in Codorus Township for pretty much all of my childhood and all of my adult life except for 1 year when I lived in Hanover. I'm here to speak tonight as a member of this community and future leader. I'm here to represent not just myself but others in the community, such as younger individuals and other individuals with disabilities who can't be here tonight for whatever their reasons might be. I'm against AI and I'm against data centers, like many, many others in our township and here tonight. I've grown up watching shows and movies like many others in this room and understanding many of the dangers that come with. I would say that 90% of us in the township use well water. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. And most of us have streams that connect to one another. We have already seen in other states that these data centers have caused pollution, illnesses, and negative health effects to those local to these data centers. Texas, for example, I believe Houston, my apologies if I'm wrong about the specific city, reported after one of these data centers moved, their animals started to have stillborn. None of the babies were alive, and the only thing that had changed in these areas were the data centers. They have since paused in allowing more data centers. Are we going to wait until something like this happens? Because I'd rather be proactive. What happens when toxic waste runs off and ends up in my stream, in my pond, in my well water? What happens when I become sick? When my dad, who was sick and ill after beating breast cancer. When my disabled brother is sick and ill and doesn't know why. When my service dog, who's my responsibility to protect like he protects me every day, is sick. How do I explain that to them, why they are all ill? What will we do when our land that our farms rely on are contaminated? We are nothing without safe food, safe water, and clean air. This is all without mentioning the sound pollution and probably a million more things that I'm sure others will bring up tonight, as I wanted to give as many people a chance to speak as possible. Sorry, my other notes fell. I'm going to switch over real quick. My apologies. I feel that the ordinances don't protect the community in regards to water, noise, traffic, and wildlife conservation. Furthermore, if it doesn't benefit the community, what is the true point other than I've since heard other comments and I will approach on that in a minute. I don't see community benefits and the requirement for contributing to the township's tax base as we find in other ordinances. I would encourage the borough to pause passing this current ordinance and also would ask the board to consider providing some community education. Conewago Township is holding some town halls for this community to better educate about the need for an ordinance and how to legally write one of that is restrictive. For instance, the noise allotment is currently ordinance is not aligned to be within rural communities that has farming and hunting aspects. Franklin Township is writing their ordinance to not allow above 47 decibels. I know someone else mentioned the noise pollution issues. And also have...
That's your 3.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You can finish your thought. Here.
We are a farming and working township, most of us here. Data centers would not be any beneficial to most of us, if not all of us in this room. And while I agree that we obviously need something in place to protect, I don't think this ordinance specifically is ready for that.
I'll keep. What is your name?
Garth Williams, G-A-R-T-H, the singer. The one thing I will say, especially the first guy, I really don't think it's ready. I mean, I've read a lot of legal documents throughout my years, and the word strongly encouraged is pathetic in a legal document. I think you guys are truly in over your heads and you need to do some research. Like, I don't mean to belittle anyone, but I think you need experts here. And I quite frankly think you haven't thought this through enough. That's it.
Thank you.
Sean Seneff, 3366 Jefferson Road. I would say that I agree with what you're saying, but there are no experts at this because this is all very new. How many people have even been to a data center here? Okay, have you done any work at them?
No.
Yeah, I've done work at the data centers. They're huge. They are not what we need in this community. I agree with that. But let me explain something to you. There is so much money behind them, and I mean so much money, that if they come in here and we don't have an ordinance in place now, whether it's a good ordinance or a bad ordinance, we better get something in place right away, because if not, they will come in here and snap up farms for $4 million a pop. And let me tell you, there ain't too many people who will turn that money down. But there's money behind this, and they will do what they want, and they will run roughshod over us if we don't get something in place.
Very loud. I'll go outside.
Let's bring her up. See, I had a thought here.
Hi, I'm Brittany Davidson. I reside at 4694 Fiscal Road, the 1850 old farmhouse that used to be a hair salon. Did anyone get their hair cut there back in the day? People are always like, oh, it's the hair salon house. I also am one of, I believe, 2 zone daycares in Codorus Township. So I run a daycare, I raise babies, I raise other people's babies alongside with them. Sorry, I'm really nervous, not like public speaking. But as a daycare provider, like, my #1 job is to keep these kids safe, top priority, and I don't know what the health effects are gonna have on, look at her. I don't want anything that could hurt her or cause cancer or all these other scary stories you're hearing when people are living near data centers. Right now, we have cows, all the farms around my house are cow feed, there's no pesticides, there's nothing, it's all organic. And that was a huge selling point because I have lupus. So I also don't want to be poisoned or have the babies be poisoned. And I just hope you guys do get something in place, but I think it does need to be tightened up because these people said 4 million, I would say they have 40 million. It's a lot of money, it's money that we can't even imagine, so.
We got more than that.
Get something tightened up, and please help protect us and the children. This is our future. What do we have if we don't protect the children?
If you pass an ordinance, if you pass this ordinance, can you change it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You can update it?
Yes.
Whenever.
Can always be changed. Revise it tomorrow if you want.
Good.
Yes.
Mike Ray, can you hear me? 5005 Hildebrand Road. First of all, thank you all for holding this. This is really good. And I agree with the gentleman who spoke about strongly encouraged, not really meaning anything. I saw the word encouraged several times in the ordinance. I'm a formal councilman myself, and that just isn't going to fly. So definitely get rid of the word encouraged. If you really want to limit these, say you will or you shall. I'm a former NASA engineer, and anytime you had a requirement, it had to be a shall requirement. And one thing I'd like to see is solar panels being required on these things. If they're going to take so much power, heck, generate your own power. So there's that. And if anybody here doesn't like data centers, stop using AI. Contact our congressman. Say, make it not the default for searching, So I think there's some talk about that, but that's above our our head, but appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Filzo, 63 Lindsay Lane. I just have a few suggestions for supervisors. I appreciate an ordinance so that you can put legal restrictions in place before they come in and apply for special use. That is important. I think what needs to be emphasized by the solicitor is there are ways to restrict this to make them look elsewhere. And two particular I want to highlight is one, a lot of these data centers use evaporative cooling, which is an impact on your local water table. That water evaporates and it is gone from your water table. You can use that and make a restriction to air cooling only that will require data centers to air cool only. They prefer water cooling, they will go elsewhere. That's step one. Step two is the load on your electrical systems. It happened in Northern Virginia. The local prices of electric went up 263% is what I've read. You absolutely need to require ahead of time before they come in, as part of your regulations, they put up a bond or they're required to pay for the increased electricity usage. That will also make them look elsewhere, because if you don't put something in place and do a study to get your baseline on what your electricity generation and uses are now, you won't know what they're responsible after they go in. So get that analysis in place and put those bond restrictions in place, and that way that cost for these data centers isn't foisted onto every taxpayer that is going to have to pay an electric increase in their bills, which is what happens. Thank you.
That was kind of my question.
We can just ditto.
Steve Brenton, 2702 Jefferson Road. I just have one question. How hard is it to go from rezone ag to commercial? If somebody buys commercial property, can they buy the farm next to it and get it rezoned?
They can ask to. It's solely within the purview of this board whether or not they want to rezone a
Can
piece of
there be a
property.
restriction saying
They can't hear you
do
outside.
that?
No, they couldn't hear him outside. Oh.
It's totally within the purview of the board.
Is there a way to restrict it so that you can't do that?
No. You can say no.
He said no.
Both ways said no.
Okay. Yeah.
Tim Roberts, 3753 Krebs Road. And that guy, I'm referencing that guy. I believe that Josh Shapiro has put in some new restrictions, which he said, I believe, that we can require that they do pay for their own power and water. And that was my suggestion, that we might want to look into what the changes are by the government since this was written. Thank you.
Any more time? James, I guess we'll have to go outside and see if somebody.
Hi, Carolyn Bob, 3921 Krebs Road. Yes, I was the one back in 2005. Because of seeing Josh Shapiro's lightning plan, that could literally come in and take away any of the rights from a township being able to say where and how a data center is placed. There's been a lot of talk about a moratorium. I don't think that's the right word, and I do believe if something like that is enacted, it can only be used once in 3 years. So if we screw this up now, we cannot pause it again. I have been coming to meetings for over 15 years. This is wonderful. Normally, there's like 5 of us here. These discussions have been going on since October, and what initially concerned me is I file a ton of right-to-knows. I want to know what's going on in this township. They actually started posting the right-to-know report every month. Take a look at that in your meeting minutes. We are already on somebody's radar. There is a company called Civic IQ that has been filing right to knows for data information for this township. What we're spending it on. So to not do anything tonight, to take that first step and wait and hope something better comes down the pike is a huge mistake. I say nail it tonight and work on it later. We've done it with several ordinances. We've done it with the sawmill ordinance. We've done it with the cemetery ordinance, which a lot of you probably don't even know. There was a cemetery ordinance that came through here that was going to allow a cemetery without setbacks. So there's a lot of stuff, and I'm glad to see you all here. And when this goes back to the Planning Commission, which it will, because I will see that it goes back to the Planning Commission for review. If it goes through tonight, please attend those meetings. Thank you.
You got it. Go ahead.
Can you try that? Hi, my name is Heather Shvikevich, 3352 Jefferson Road, newbie to the neighborhood. Love the fact that there's community involvement. I would super appreciate it, and I learned a lot watching the YouTube posting. More transparency, it's great to know more, and you don't know what you don't know. One of my favorite sayings, you just don't know, you don't understand because you can't comprehend, and we don't know the future of this. You do need to have an ordinance in place. I think that's excellent that you've been working on one. I do feel the language needs to be tweaked. I do feel that there's a lot of statements that are very subjective to interpretation, and that just opens you for lawsuits. So you do need more detail and specifics. I do think the power and water consumption and the thresholds need to be reviewed in conjunction to costs and effect, and it's an ongoing study that needs to be paid by them, the individual if you can, because it's ongoing. And we don't, again, you don't know what you don't know. As computers, everything, data, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The impacts could be greater. We don't know. So this needs to be something that's on the books, which I understand, but it does need something that is constantly reviewed based on best practices that are introduced across the U.S. And I don't feel like we're really reviewing best practices, but you do have the pressure to get something in place. Need to be forward thinking, again, into size. Because I agree, I'm a neighbor right here, and to just move here and find out that this could possibly happen, yeah, it's a scary thing. But I think it's great that we can all be on the same page and just get something, but what I want to understand is, if something's on the books, there's an ordinance, when do you review it? How often do you review it? How often is that conveyed to everyone that for their awareness? There's nothing in place in my mind that's as far as the communication process. And again, the term data center, that in itself, what constitutes that as that changes?
Mainly, we have public meetings.
I've learned about that, and I've been reading the meetings and agenda, but I just feel that we need to know more, understand more, and share more information. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to share information. I think that's good. Oh, the umbrella term, again. Data center can be an umbrella term, and that, again, is subject to interpretation of how that is going to evolve and change, and I'll reflect on best practices, how we research them, and what's the data that we do.
Thank you. Well, I would ask that if anybody in here has spoken, to please go outside so other people can come in and talk.
Let them come in here and. We're just trying to get on there.
I'll let them know 2 seats. Thank you guys for doing this.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cleared up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but you need to get to work.
Dean, you got it?
Not today.
Not to,
Are these maps online?
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to find it.
Yep, they're on. No, see if you can show it. It is kind of confusing.
Keep coming in, we don't have room.
Yep, yep.
It's a sizable crowd, they may have trouble getting through.
Oh, can I go to what? It's on the website.
I am.
Okay.
I have a question.
If you have any questions, just call in, and I can directly through.
Yeah, there's we're in trouble now. Gary, is there any more out there want to come in here?
There's tons out there.
Well, let some more come in there. Okay. You can be the bouncer. It's good.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, right.
I bet he was.
It's good.
Oh, yeah.
It's good.
$4 million sounds pretty good.
I said hi to him, I think we might be overstating.
There was a word.
Because I'm gonna use it and then we go. I'm not on it like.
Is it still to the people of the township?
Sorry.
Yeah. Stop saying it. I've seen people coming in and I've seen people coming in and ain't. Well. Check the driver's license. But sad address.
Almost coming in right now, Gary?
I threw it out.
You want us to get some more people talking? Yeah, get them started.
We're having a open discussion here, so anybody that wants to speak, you have 3 minutes to
Hopefully it won't take that
say
long.
your piece.
Carrie Brenton, 2702 Jefferson Road. My question is more about, what's that? You good? All right. Carrie Brenton, 2702 Jefferson Road. My question is more about the variance process and what that would play with the ordinance, because as we know, those can be problematic. And what can we do to sort of ensure that variances are not going to have an effect on any ordinance that we put in place restricting the umbrella term of data center or the other terms that may or may not be interpreted differently?
That's a good question. Andy?
So the important thing to understand, and we could go on for hours about zoning and different uses and things like that. This use will be permitted by what's called special exception. okay? A special exception is a use which is permitted by the township so long as certain criteria are met, okay? So this use, if a data center wanted to come in, they would have to meet what we call the general criteria. And the general criteria are typically that it will be adequately served by public utilities, that it won't have detrimental impact to the surrounding communities. There's a list, okay, and those are what we call the general criteria. Now, in addition, for data centers, many uses that are permitted by special exception have, in addition to the general criteria, what we call specific criteria. So this will have specific criteria related to sound, related to the water feasibility study, related to the noise, related to everything that's contained in here. Now, it's not a variance, okay? I suppose, I know that somebody can always request a variance from the zoning ordinance. Somebody, a data center, would be permitted to make application to the zoning hearing board to permit a variance to permit a data center in the agricultural zone, okay? Now, the standard for the grant of a variance is intentionally quite high, okay? They have to prove that there is unique physical characteristics such that the property can't be developed in conformity with the zoning ordinance. Well, the agricultural zone is just that, it's agricultural. It would be pretty difficult in my mind to figure out a unique physical characteristic that would prevent or that would somehow permit a data center to come into the, to comply or to be granted a variance. Any follow-up on that?
I have a follow-up question for that. Thank you. I am Dawn Black, 3361 Foxtail Lane. When you say that the data centers couldn't request a variance, if the link could, but it would be hard, they would be hard pressed to get it. So what happens if an LLC comes, buys an agricultural property, requests the variance? Do they have to tell you specifically what they're requesting it for?
Yes. They have to present an application to the zoning hearing board, and the zoning hearing board then hears testimony. And it's a hearing just like this, or similar. There's a stenographer. The zoning hearing board hears the testimony of the applicant as to why the applicant believes that they meet the criteria for the grant of a variance. Now, the important thing to remember or understand about an application for a variance is that the township, let me back up. The zoning hearing board is a separate body from this body, okay? This body is the Board of Supervisors. The zoning hearing board is a separate, appointed but independent body that can hear applications for variances, for special exceptions, and to act on those applications. The important thing to understand is that the municipality, these guys, are always permitted to be a party to that hearing, okay? And so let's just say that the data center comes in and they have, they come before the zoning hearing board and they present evidence as to why they think that they are entitled to the grant of a special or to the grant of a variance. This board can have me or any other lawyer that they choose to come before the zoning hearing board and present its own testimony to cross-examine the applicant as to why we believe that they're not entitled to that variance, present our own evidence as to why they do not meet the criteria for the variance, and then if the zoning hearing board were to approve the grant of the variance, we can then appeal that to the Court of Common Pleas. So the important thing to understand is that while somebody can come to the zoning hearing board and make a request for a variance, this body can oppose that request vehemently and vigorously and can take that through the courts. And so that's why, that's why the municipality is always permitted to be an actual party to the proceeding of a zoning hearing board application. I know I'm getting into the weeds of zoning law, but that's the way it works.
Hi, Mark Easterling, 514.
I'm sorry, so much. What is your name again?
Mark
Last
Easterling.
name? Hold it up to your mouth.
Easterling.
Thank you.
So you just described what would happen if you were to be contested with a variance. Could you run out of money before you were able to win that variance? And they could just keep pushing it through court and then they get what they want? Hello, lawyer.
Sure. Look, I tell everybody that anybody can sue anybody for anything, okay? And lawsuits involve one thing, and it's money, right? And lawsuits typically settle because of money. I don't have a great answer for that.
So the answer is yes, they could. Could they?
Theoretically,
It's not a theory, you just said they could push it.
theoretically, this body,
Has
I'm
limited
not gonna say what, listen,
They have
this
limited
body has the taxing authority, okay? And so it would be up to this body to determine what amount is it worth to be spent to fight a data center. And they can always raise taxes. I'm not suggesting that that's a popular thing. I'm not suggesting that that's what anybody wants. But let me also be clear. Just because a data center, if it gets the grant of a variance for the special exception, if a data center is successful in obtaining a variance, all these regulations still apply. Now, they can seek variances from these regulations.
We'd be broke then.
I'm sorry?
We'd be broke then.
It's,
I mean, how would you fight the variance to the variance if you lost because you didn't have money to continue fighting the variance?
I honestly, it's a land use appeal. They can have hundreds of millions of dollars, but at the end of the day, they're going before the Court of Common Pleas of York County and arguing a very ordinary matter of law, which has well-established case law, and which, if somebody just came in and said, hey, I want to put a data center on a piece of agricultural land, and didn't, again, if they can't present evidence that there are unique physical characteristics of that property which create a hardship and which create or prohibit the development of that land in strict conformity with the zoning ordinance, they're not entitled to it. It's that simple. Money can buy you a lot of things. I'm not sure that it can necessarily buy you a variance where one doesn't exist. Thoughts?
It always makes me nervous when I'm an engineer and the lawyer looks at me and asks for thoughts. Well, I've been in this business for a long time in municipal government, and I would just say, I think what we're here to talk about tonight is, are you better or worse with having an ordinance in place? That's really the issue here. You're gonna be sued if a data center wants to come in and wants to fight that battle. The question is, what's the best ground to fight on? I think that's what we're talking about here. I don't think there's anyone in this room that wants a data center. So the question is, how do we position ourselves so that when we wake up tomorrow, you don't have a data center knocking at your door? And there are ways to start to stop that from happening. This is the first step. Could it be better? It always could be better. But when you cross a line that's better for you all, it gets you in very difficult legal ground as to whether it can be defended and maintained. And that's the issue. So that's me speaking to you as an engineer that's been in this business for 40 years and working with municipalities. And I'm simply saying there's no perfect solution to this. If it wasn't data centers, we'd be here talking about warehouses about 2 years ago. And before that, we were talking about some other threats to the community. So I would just say to you, keep in mind what we're talking about today. We're talking about trying to create regulations that better us to defend the lifestyle that you're trying to maintain. That's it. And could it be better? Maybe. We can talk about that as we move forward. This ordinance can be revised, but it has to be revised after York County Planning Commission gives you comments. You don't have to do what they tell you, but they have to review it. That's the law. You have to make sure that your attorney believes that the ordinance that you're passing will stand up in court. That's the law. After that, we're talking about technical standards that we're trying to create. I hope that helps.
That's why I turned to him. It's always good to have a team. Any other?
Randall Buffington, 7408 Alpine Lane, Glen Rock. So I was not at the supervisors meeting, and just want, these gentlemen have a big job to do, and I want to thank you for that. And I would encourage you to pass the ordinance, or set it through the motion to pass that ordinance, and then modify, as I think others have spoken. But the one thing, when I looked at the supervisors' tape online, I came away with that the engineers were recommending to pause. But hearing the engineer speak tonight, I want to ask you, what is your recommendation?
Are you talking about last Thursday when they spoke?
Yes.
So I wasn't at that meeting, but I think the message we were trying to wrestle with is, were we in a position to be best suited for this discussion, for this crowd, for this environment to talk about this subject matter? Did we educate well enough, and did we believe that we had the best ordinance? What I heard in response was they want to move forward and try to get something on the books, and I respect that. But our recommendation was simply to make sure that we were in the best position to have a reasonable discussion about this. And if you guys can hear out there, sounds like maybe you can, then I guess this was the best place to do this. I'm not opposed to an ordinance. What I'm concerned about is that we have the best ordinance, or we're prepared to continue to adjust it. Because quite frankly, much like stormwater management 20 years ago, we know very little at that time about stormwater. We put ordinances in place that were bad and that worked detrimentally. What we're trying to make sure of is that we get all the facts, and this is a moving target right now. That's the only concern I have.
So as an engineering firm, you would support adopting the ordinance and then revising it?
Yes.
Same question for the attorney. Would you support adopting the ordinance and then revising it?
I drafted it. Listen, yeah, the answer is, I share, I think Jeff said it perfectly. The thing that I think everybody needs to recognize is that all of these towns, unless and until there is either federal or state legislation, every one of these ordinances, every one of these towns will be little laboratories as to what works and what doesn't, okay? And we have great people that represent townships across the Commonwealth, Pennsylvania State Association of Townships. Jeff has, I'm sure, his engineering associations. We've got lawyer associations. There are people who are keeping an eye on what people are doing up in northeastern Pennsylvania, northwestern Pennsylvania, wherever the case may be. And again, we all will be little laboratories, and we will have to tweak this. I can almost assure you of that. And I, by no means, think that I have all the answers, okay? I did my best to draft this ordinance. Will there be issues? Will we have to deal with things? Yes, I am not perfect. I will be the first to admit that, but I believe that having something in place is, as Jeff said, it's a moving target, but it puts something in place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nick Moss, 2913 Brush Valley. Have you spoken with any other attorneys or any other legal counsel? or any other areas in the state of Pennsylvania, Michigan, that have dealt with these same sort of regulations? Have you taken their advice? And I guess the other thing is there any way that we can legally postpone anybody applying for building any kind of data center until these regulations are completely finished, or are we rushing to get these out the door before somebody starts applying for that?
I think it's better to have an ordinance in place and to have restrictions in place, or regulations, I should say, not necessarily restrictions, but regulations. The answer is yes. I've spoken to plenty of council. I've reviewed plenty of ordinances. York County Planning Commission put out a model data center ordinance 6 months ago. I would suggest to you that if you go and read their model ordinance and you read this model or this ordinance, I would suggest to you that you'll probably find this to be to have tighter regulations than the York County ordinance. And so I understood it to be the will of this township and this board to put in place as many regulations to try to protect as much of this, to protect this township as much as possible. Thanks.
And Andy, to that effect, let me say something. And to that effect, and I think Jeff recognized this as well, is that we're all learning. And since you wrote this, and the things that I've learned, I'm sorry, but I think there's changes that need made already. But we have to keep moving and get in front of it, and because coming behind it is going to be far more detrimental than being in front of it. So.
Hi, Jeff Brady, 3464 Jefferson Road. I just wanted to address a couple comments that have been made. Data centers aren't new. The company I work for has had 2 large data centers on both sides of the country for over 10 years. Data centers are not new, and there are precedents outside of Pennsylvania that we should be looking at. Relying on York County Planning Commission is a good reference, but I think we need to go further. I think we need to get more legal consultants, and I also think that the ordinance, if it is passed, we can't just stop. We got to keep going, and I think that's going to be probably needed another public hearing at least. Once the ordinance is in place and we need to make modifications, I think we need to have another public hearing. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, there we go. Up front here.
Kirk McClellan, address 3767 Schuman Road. My primary concern is water usage. I looked up typical data center water usage. It can run anywhere from 300,000 gallons to 1.5 million gallons per day. To put that in perspective, the township has about 1,500 homes here that average about 300 gallons a day. So that data center could take 200 to 1,000 times the entire current water usage of the township. That's unacceptable in my opinion. The answer to that, I think, was brought up earlier about air cooling rather than water cooling. I think perhaps that should be an element of the ordinance. The other is noise. At 500 feet setback from the data center, they can have a dBA of 55 to 70 decibels. 65 is typical for a maximum noise in a lot of local ordinances. In order to get 65, I think you may need to extend the setback distance beyond 500 feet. Another is electronic waste. 3 to 5 years, the computers and the electronic equipment is outdated. They may need to change it. That's a lot of hazardous waste that needs to be disposed of properly. I don't know whether that's listed in there or not. I would like to get a copy of the ordinance if I could. And lastly, are written comments to be accepted, and if so, by when?
Yeah, that was already on my mind, and I think that that's going to be up to the supervisors how you wish to proceed. I'm getting ahead of myself, and I know that there may be other people that still want to talk. You could opt to hold this hearing this evening and thereafter accept written comment, okay? And in fact, if we're gonna do that, I was just thinking about this a minute ago, we could even develop a specific email address for that purpose and that purpose alone, okay? And we could accept comments, and we could accept recommendations and suggestions. You know, the difficulty of that is, of course, you can become inundated. You can, you know, some of them may be good, some of them may not be good, some of them may be good for some places and not necessarily for Codorus. But that is certainly an option that the Board of Supervisors has at its disposal, is to hold this hearing and then to move on to accept written comment from residents for, frankly, as long as you want. Nothing requires that you take action tonight.
Well, that and even moving forward, if we accept this, if we passed it the way it was, you could.
Yeah.
You can take comments from people and implement it into it, so. That's it. He thought behind it long enough.
Dean Toman, 4018 Cherry Run Road. I've heard two terms here mentioned quite often, a variance and a special exception. My first question is, what is the difference between a variance and a special exception?
A special exception, let me start with uses permitted by right, okay? A use permitted by right is just that. I want to put a home in the residential district. I want to put a single-family home in the residential district. I am permitted to do that by right, okay? Special exception. A special exception is a use which is permitted so long as the general criteria of the ordinance are met. Again, that it is not detrimental to the general health and well-being of the surrounding neighborhoods, that it's not going to negatively impact property values, that it's appropriately served by utilities, fire, etc. Okay, and so as long as there's an old adage in the law that a special exception is neither special nor an exception. Okay, it sounds like it's this big thing, but it's neither special nor an exception. So as long as they meet these criteria, they can do what they want to do. Now, in addition, in this case, what we're saying is, okay, in order to do this under a special exception, you have to meet the general criteria, but then you also have to meet all of these regulations, okay? So we're putting in place a whole bunch of additional regulations that are in addition to the general criteria of the special exception. A variance is where you are asking to do something that is not permitted by the zoning ordinance. There are two types of variances. There are use variances, and then there are dimensional variances, okay? Use variance is, I want to put a casino in the residential district, right? Not allowed to put a casino in the residential district, so I need to come in and prove that there are, again, unique physical characteristics about my property that prevent me from using it as a residential property, okay? That's a use variance, where you want to put a use in a place where it's not permitted. A dimensional variance is, hey, I want to put a shed in the 10-foot setback, right? I want to encroach by 2 feet into that 10-foot setback to put my shed. Dimensional variances are generally a little easier to get than a use variance, okay? So that's sort of your 10,000-foot view of the different types of uses. There's also what we call conditional use. We're not talking about that in this case. I think I'm just going to forget about that for now.
My second question, can anyone tell me when was, or an example of a special exemption that happened, say, in the last 5 years in Codorus Township?
with Sawmill,
Was that a special exception, or was
well,
it?
it's kind of what he, it went,
More of a transfer.
it went in front of the zoning hearing.
What about the church? We were a special exemption. What about the church?
Yeah. Yeah, the church. So there's been a couple. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yep.
My name is Wendy, Schaefer Church Road. I work for a hotel in York, and there is a data center that went in Lancaster, which is one of our sister properties. We literally have been losing business because the noise consumption is so loud that you can hear it within a 2-mile radius. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, especially being on Schaefer Church Road. And I would just say to the board, you know, what is being done to make sure that we are looking at all angles? What are we doing to make sure the water consumption? We're on wells, you know, what is going on with that? Because it seems like we're entertaining things, but we don't have any information.
Well, there is a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for example, the water issue, the water feasibility study requires that a data center, if it is on well, that it prove that it's not going to impact other wells in the community. If it is on public water, it has to prove applicant shall include documentation that the public authority or public utility will supply the water needed.
So has there been like a water use study done in this area to see what that consumption would be for the data center?
No, they would have to do that if they came in prior to gaining approval.
Okay, and then is there something that's going to happen with traffic and noise? Because people already do about 70 miles an hour down this road.
Yeah.
So what is happening with the traffic and with the noise that would also incur?
These are not generally thought of as very impactful with respect to traffic. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I'm going to speak. I think your question is geared more toward when an application would be filed. Those questions would be asked and answered.
Yeah.
Right now, what we're trying to do is direct regulations for what we don't know exactly the particulars on. So, for what Andy said is that basically we have tried to identify all the regulations we will hold them to when they come in, but we don't have anything right now to compare to.
So there has been nobody that has come and approached you to do any type of data center. Is this to protect us from being able to not have a data center in this area then?
That's the attempt, yes.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We are not trying to restrict a lawful use from coming to this township. We are trying to ensure that we have it at the appropriate place with the appropriate regulations.
That just upset everybody
Lawyer.
outside. But you can see.
Again, we are not legally permitted to prohibit a lawful use, and that's what I want to be clear about. We are trying to ensure that we have this at the appropriate place with the appropriate regulations to protect the welfare of these citizens and this community.
Yeah, let me see the answer. So when we first started talking about this, C.S. Davidson did do a agricultural overlay, and we decided as the board that that wasn't acceptable for this township. So the next best thing is to use the commercial ground that we have allowed, correct, Andy?
Yes.
And so that's the best. I mean, there is no other options. I don't feel. I never felt there was any other options. And on the sound thing, in the ordinance, the way I understand it is that the 60 dBA is, does anybody, when I looked that up, that's like a conversation between two people. That's the.
It is not. No.
I'm not saying, but that's what our ordinance states.
Yeah, I'm just saying, when we have guests that go out outside the hotel, they literally can hear it humming
Yeah.
noise the whole entire time that they're outside.
But this ordinance is stating that it has to be at the line, at the line of the property. It can't be louder than 60 dBA, which is about the tone of two people talking. So that's what it has to be limited to, and that's what these regulations we're trying to do, is to regulate it to that.
But that's not what the regulations typically are for data centers.
No, wait, you're saying typically, every ordinance is different, every township's regulations are different.
I understand, that's why I'm just trying to bring that subject up, because that is not, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that, because I'm not sure when the data centers say, hey, this is really what the noise is going to be, it's not really what the noise is going to be. I mean, you can drive to Lancaster and listen outside of the hotel right now and hear that the whole entire time. It literally sounds like 1,000 generators running at the same time. So that's why I'm just bringing it up to, I understand the ordinance, but that's why I also want to make sure, like, we're doing these studies, because that's what we're saying. Because sometimes things are one way and then they end up turning out being something totally different.
Where's the data center? What happens if they do make this noise level higher than what is permitted? Can you do anything?
Well, once they break the ordinance, then we can, I don't want to speak for Andy here, but once they break the ordinance, I was just looking for that wordage in the ordinance, that we can at that point, defend ourselves as a township. You say you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it, or then there's gonna be, of course, problems.
It's on page 10.
10.
What is the penalty when they do break the?
We gotta do this on the microphone for people outside.
Look at page 10.
Please state your name and address.
I'm Chris Orndorff, I'm on Hobart Road, 3657 Hobart Road. My question is, what happens to them when they do break certain ordinances like sound? Because that is something that in the state of Virginia right now, they're habitually breaking these barriers, and they're basically holding them up in court for a long, long time, and it's becoming a small fine slap on the wrist that they make on Wednesday. So what are we gonna do to hold them accountable? Who's taking these measurements? And what are we gonna do about it when they're habitually stepping over the line? It says in there that you're going to shut them down, more or less, but the language of it is kind of weak. There isn't anything in exception of what their actual penalty will be, what time frame they have to do to come back into compliance and stuff like that.
Can I? So, again, I'm gonna get into a little bit of a legal lesson here. So, all townships in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania are governed by what we call the enabling statute. For the Township of Codorus, that enabling statute is the second-class township code. The second-class township code is established by the Pennsylvania State Legislature and sets forth what our teeth we have, okay? It's not real great teeth, okay? But what we can do is we can go into court, we can seek what is called equitable relief, we could go in and seek an injunction and things like that. I mean, there are tools that are available that are at our, that we do have at our disposal, but again, we are at the mercy of what the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, what the state legislature says that we can and we cannot do.
My name is Janine Szynski, and I'm at 7121 Intersection Road, and I have a few points. Think about it. 30 years ago, our government said that lead was 100% safe. 30 years ago. Now, we know that lead is not. What do you think these data centers are going to prove? 10, 20, 30 years down the line. Because the government has not done any studies. But let me tell you who has. The UK. They have data centers. And let me tell you what they found. 30,000 children within 200 meters of these data centers have a 67 increase in leukemia. 67% increase. In Mexico, their data shows that women have a higher rate of preterm births based on their close proximity to these data centers. Their lands are barren. They're lands that used to have cattle and goats and vegetables. Can't produce anything because they're a dust bowl. Their water has dried up. Men and women are getting cancer. They're being affected not only by the noise pollution, but by the EMF fields that are so high. Nobody's done a single thing about that. Nobody's looked into those or even said anything about those. Look into it. It's a fact. People don't understand what is going to happen to our land and our water. It's going to dry up all of our water. Nobody's going to have clean water to drink. When we get sick, who's going to pay for our medical bills? Are these big data centers going to do it? No. When our farmers go out of business or their cattle starts to die and can't produce any more milk, who's going to give us our food? Are we going to get it from China? I don't want China's food. I want this community to thrive. I want to live. And I know these people do. Do you? And let me tell you something about regulations. How about putting in a regulation that says you cannot go against Section 127 of the Constitution of the Pennsylvania that says the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment.
Thank you. Any comments? Anybody else?
I'd like to say something, just
Yeah.
real quick, just so fast. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. My name's Megan, forgive me, I missed the first couple minutes of this. So
Well,
maybe this is already been addressed. It's moving on for one. So I think that we all can agree, nobody wants the data centers. You guys want the data centers, nobody wants them. We know they're terrible, we get that. Right, nobody does. You guys don't. Nobody's gonna profit, we get it. What is stopping us from modifying the language of the ordinance, adding in these things? We've got some ideas, you know, the town has spoken. Time is of the essence, is the vibe that I'm getting. So can we make the changes that we need to make and go forward with that? Can we change the language, you know, make it a little more forceful? Add some of these new things that we're thinking about. I know you can't legally say, oh, we're trying to keep it from happening. I get that you can't say that. But there's got to be some precedent for this stuff. There's people who have fought and lost. There's people who have fought and won. Can we just agree that maybe we tweak the ordinance a little bit and then we put it out there and then we go from there? Is that crazy? I don't know.
Nope.
Ma'am, I need your name. Megan Snyder.
Anybody else?
Oh,
Hi, I'm Sue Saunders, 5218 Glen Echo Road. I live right next to CS, convenience, or as we always call it, Fulmers. Because Henry and Ruth were good friends of ours, our kids work there, I work there. I've lived near a commercial zone for 45 years and never felt it was a problem. But after I read the township's statement and what was going to happen, I thought, it's Codorus Township. How many commercial zones are there? What is it total, like 20 acres, or what does it add up to? I mean, if you added all of them.
Not much. It's not
Not much. And I felt relieved. It's like, okay, no data center is going to want to build here because that's just not enough room. And yes, we have a well. I don't want a data center. And when I read how the state is basically forcing this to happen, a lot of this anger and energy we need to apply to our state legislatures. We need to write to them and say, what are you doing here? Why are you tying the hands of our local people? And I feel like you guys are trying, it's like the hen house where there's a fox. You build a better hen house to keep the fox away. And for 45 years, I felt Codorus Township will protect the agriculture, has been outspoken about that. Other townships, I know people that are in real estate and they say, oh, don't even go to Codorus. They're hard to deal with, so.
Good.
That's what, I'm like, good. But I would be very affected if one of them decided, oh, let's take over the store and the post office and the bar. I mean, we're in the middle. We're squeezed right in there. So I say, let's pass it. Let's be protected. And then let's work on it. And definitely keep everybody's opinions coming in. And I think we got a good start. Thank you.
Yep, thanks for your. Jerry? Oh.
Hi, Laura Buffington, 7408 Alpine Lane. I agree, well, the gentleman left, that I agreed a lot with the green shirt. I'm very much concerned about water, power usage, closed loop, open loop, there's downsides to all of them. I was doing a lot of research today. One set thing I saw in East Manchester Township's ordinance was that they have a violation penalty section. And it seemed like it maybe had a little bit more teeth to it, rather than having some things scattered throughout. So that's just a East Manchester Township. And one of the other things I wanted to bring up as far as the decibel level goes, I think all of us can agree we love the nature of Codorus Township. That's why a lot of us moved here. And nature is affected at 40 decibels. So while 60 is not that loud, I would love to see it go down to 40 because none of us want to see the birds and the nature around us getting affected.
Anybody else? You want to go again, Carol? Go ahead. You had time on your 3 minutes. So.
These are the data centers proposed for the commercial zone.
Yeah.
What other decibel do you allow in the commercial zone that you are not going to say, like any other business that wants to come into the commercial zone, what are they going to be required to do? And that's, I mean, Codorus literally has no businesses. And I can say this, those of you that know me, I rarely agree with anything Codorus says. Rarely. I just spent a 9-year fight to get back what I had. So I am for this ordinance and I am for getting it worked on. And also, just so that you know, there is an opening on the Planning Commission. So any one of you highly qualified people that spoke here tonight, we could really use your help.
Yep. Anybody thinking about it? You said, yeah, we got Gary finally talked into it here.
Gary Gladfelder, 3910 Schaefer's Church Road. Been a resident of Codorus Township all my life, 63 years. My roots go back here in Codorus Township about 500 years. Preservation of land, agriculture, and family community. I hope you guys don't want to have to change that on your watch. Codorus Township is a quiet township located in the southern part of York County. I mean, you know. So, you know, my take on this is, if you make the ordinance more difficult than the neighbors' township, they're gonna go somewhere else. So let's make sure we get this right and put some teeth in this thing and make it a nightmare.
Anyone else? Anyone outside? Anybody outside wants to come in and speak? You're welcome to come in.
Here comes Tom.
There we go.
Hello, I am Maria Hacker. I live at 2931 Boulevard Road. I have a couple notes here of things that I wanted to say. I applaud the fact that you're trying to do something about this. We all know it needs to be done. But I think that we definitely need some more teeth. I think we need better mandatory buffers. I think we need very strict noise caps. I think the idea of having third-party water impact studies done is very important. Most of all of us here have well water. We love it here. It's why we live here. We don't want it to change. I think that we can enact very strict regulations to make it undesirable to build a data center here. I think if we have very tight rules and regulations, they'll go somewhere else. And everybody's going to have this fight, but, you know, let them build it out in the middle of nowhere where no one lives. Maybe, you know, I don't know, somewhere out west. I agree with the noise issue is huge. We all have wildlife around here. Just the other day, I had a peacock come walking through my yard. Apparently, he lives in the area. I wasn't aware of that, but he was beautiful. And I understand that 40 decibels disturbs wildlife. So I think that's very important to keep that in mind. And also, these data centers run 24 hours a day. The hum and the noise and the electromagnetic fields, they don't stop. And our bodies are assaulted enough as it is with, you know, we need clean air, we need clean water. We can struggle for that now. You know, the air we breathe is not clean, a lot of the water is polluted. We need to clean things up, we don't need to make things worse. I think, I had a business up on Route 30 in Jackson Township, right across from Briarwood. And as many of you know, they were trying to put in a data center up where the Amazon factory is, or Amazon warehouse. And they seem to put it on hold for, I'm not sure if it's going to go through or not, but they're definitely fighting back. And perhaps you could talk to some people at the township there and, you know, maybe get some ideas on how to fight back, because they had a huge public outcry there, and we obviously have a turnout here where we're all very concerned. I think we should have another public hearing. I think you guys could work on it, try and get things better, tighten things up, make it undesirable to be here. And, you know, the community will do whatever we can to help support. Thank you, everyone. I'm really glad that you're all here.
Hello, I'm Tiffany Morgan Perry. I'm in Manheim Township, so I came in just because you said that people outside could speak.
So, okay, so I will, we have had the rule thus far that it has been.
A couple have snuck through anyway.
Yeah.
I'll be quick.
Fair enough.
I just wanted to, I don't think anything's been stated about things like in Middlesex, where they're writing in that after the first year a data center comes, they have to pay $1 million in tax revenue. Second year, it's $4 million, it cuts your property taxes, right? If they want to allow these data centers, why are the data centers not doing, it's called a community benefit impact, right? So that could be written in this ordinance. And then I saw a lot of lines in the ordinance that said state and federal regulations. We all know they're getting rolled back every single day, and if we're relying on them, I would encourage us to look at that ordinance again and write it better. Thank you.
So many times when these data centers come in, I've seen this with solar, I've seen this with other impactful warehouses, right? Many times when they come in, they will do community aid type things. They'll buy a new fire truck, they'll do things in an attempt to be a good neighbor. I do not feel comfortable writing any sort of quid pro quo into our ordinance, okay? Many times they do that, but it's not appropriate for us to say, you can only come here if you give us $1 million.
Middlesex Township rooted in their ordinance instead.
I may disagree with their solicitor. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't recommend that in this township.
I think we can all agree, outside and in, that a lot of work has to go into this. I hear people talking about sound, wildlife, water. I live 2,000 feet over that hill. If one goes here, I'm gonna get it. So, I hear you. The sound, I've been doing my own research, and they're even having trouble recording the sound because it's such a low-level hum. The hertz are different. I'm not a scientist, but it's all brand new. It's brand new to Jeff, it's brand new to us, it's brand new to all you. I think that every person that come up here and said something tonight had something good for us to hear. I've already heard things that I didn't know, and this is perfect. Yes, I think the more that comes out for this, the better. This turned out so much better than I thought it would, and I want to thank everybody. And if there's nobody else, speak now.
One question.
Okay.
I'm Manheim Township also, but I had a question for the lawyer, actually. Jeff Wright, 7151 Glenville Road. So, unlike like him, he'll be, say if they build there, he'll be right across the street from data center. Say, and I'm reading things out west where they're still in the midst of building the data center and people's waters are turning brown or their wells are going dry. What recourse do I have, say my water turns brown, who do I hold accountable, and are they gonna fix it? I mean, or if I'm, a mile outside of the ordinance, and my water runs dry, and I gotta now, spend $80,000 for a deeper well, who's paying for that? That's my, even if I'm in a different township, I'm just over the line. So it will affect me. I mean, you townships talk to Manheim,
Yes.
so everybody knows, because I know Heidelberg is having the same issue. They were having a township meeting, so that was my, question with, even if you're not doing it, but with all these data centers going, the, Susquehanna Aquifer Basin, something's gonna go dry, and that's my concern.
Thank you.
And that does affect my property value. So is that in the, that amendment where if a data center goes in next to my house, which affects my property value, how can they be allowed to build there? Because it's going to bring my property value down. Correct?
There's a recognition that all zoning has some impact on communities. There aren't simple answers to your questions, but there is just a general recognition in Pennsylvania, in the zoning laws of Pennsylvania. It is understood that zoning can impact property values, but that doesn't necessarily make it it doesn't necessarily permit an outright prohibition or anything like that. I wish I could give you a better answer, a definite answer. I know that that's probably not the answer that you're looking for, but that is generally the law in Pennsylvania, and it is ultimately up to these guys to make the decisions as it relates to zoning, where they want different uses. And again, what we've tried to do is we've tried to put as many protections in place, water feasibility studies, things like that. And let me be clear, right? If somebody was coming before the board for this special exception, the community also has a right to participate in that hearing, okay? Typically, when we're talking about the right to be what we call a party to a proceeding, you have to prove a direct impact, okay? As the impact of the use gets bigger, so too does the radius of who can be a party, right? I mean, if I want to put that shed in that, in that setback, like I used that example earlier, you can probably only talk to the people directly attached to that property, right? When you start to talk about a data center and if you can prove that the noise is going to reach, wherever, then you're going to have a much better opportunity to be a party to that proceeding. And you all as a community, we as a board could hire consultants and experts. You as a community could hire experts and consultants. So that is an avenue that is available to you.
It's actually been done.
It has been done. Yep.
I'm just here to sponge it. So the amendment of a zoning ordinance to support, my name, sorry, yes, I'm Bethany Riebert. And so, like I was saying, the amendment of a zoning ordinance to support AI infrastructure construction in Codorus Township, I believe would be in violation of the 1999 Pennsylvania Environmental Stewardship and Watershed Protection Act, or the ESWPA. So according to Lehigh University, the ESWPA protects open space and critical habitats, conserves river resources, creates greenways, builds community parks and playgrounds, and enhances tourism. And as I believe someone said earlier, they worked at a hotel, I think, or something like that.
You did that?
Right, but you guys completely are, totally losing business. Another thing is that the 1939 PA Water Rights Act states that the available supply of water will be conserved, controlled, and used equitably for the best interests of all concerned, and that the future water needs should also be considered. So, if an AI data center is built in this township, I don't think that it would be considerate to the future generations and, kids like me and, kids that people are having, kids that are being born and growing up. And, I just think in the past, people in this country have protested much more over much less.
Somebody.
I thought they were.
Frank Rieger, I'm actually in Penn Township. Just wanted to know where we got some of these numbers, some of these things in this ordinance that claim to be restrictive, when people brought things up like if it were forced to be air-cooled, they'd probably pack up and go home right there. But I read 150,000 to 300,000 square feet, is that correct? Were those the numbers that I read online? 150,000 potentially expandable to 300,000. 100,000 is the threshold for a hyperscale data center, a massive AI data center. And as somebody else said before, as technology continues shrinking, they'll throw even more in there, but it's still going to generate more and more heat. I don't understand where that number came from, and can somebody explain to us why A, we didn't consider air cooling, or B, why don't you throw the number down to 80,000 square feet, and then at that point you're looking like a small regional colo location, which is something that maybe this grid could go ahead and handle, instead of allowing some of these big guys to come in from somewhere else in the country. They reap the benefits, and we get the shaft.
Thank you. I don't know where, you just
got it
from
I used the best,
research it.
right, research the best information I had available.
It's like a 2-second Google search, that's why I ask. It doesn't really seem like there's a lot.
You know, with respect to the water versus air, I don't think that you can restrict somebody's usage of water. I don't think that would pass legal, you know.
Chicken house.
I mean, listen, if you all want to challenge the ordinance, you know, that is certainly something, as I said earlier, I don't claim to have every single answer. Do I think that I'm perfect in everything that I do? Nope, I did the best that I could. And it's up to this board to determine whether they like the work that I did. Again, I'm not sure that you can say that, you know, if somebody is sitting on a well, that they can't use their own well.
And about the size, being well within the AI data center range as opposed to a regional, which might be more in line with what someone
And
might
again,
expect in this
I
area.
think that the more restrictive you get, the more you got, it's a balance. It's a balance between regulation and restriction and not getting the thing tossed out in court and then having something 3 times that size.
So if the 150 is in there, why the possible expansion to 300 if 150, you know, is already well within the range of an AI data center?
I don't really have the answer to that.
It just seems overly permissive to me.
Our commercial lots though won't handle more than 100,000 square feet.
I think he made a point though. Things need to be looked into.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta work at this.
I mean, if it won't handle it, then let's just put it in writing. Let's codify it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mindy Vance Bowman, 3574 Hawk Hill Road, Glen Rock, Codorus Township. So I think that we worked through this for the most part, and that we understand that time is of the essence. Not that there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but not that there is anything on the table from any data center that wants to come in, but that could happen at any time. So then the question, like everybody seems to be in agreement here, and there's all these good points that are brought up that we need to address. So then the question becomes, do we want to pass this ordinance now as a Band-Aid in order to just get something in place and then continue to work on it? Or do we want to push the pause button and work on it and then do a better ordinance? So the question is one of time, because we all feel like, even though there's nothing on the table, it could happen tomorrow. So how quickly can we do excellent research and come up with a better ordinance? Or should we pass this one and then continue to work on it? So I just wanted to boil that question down, because that's really what we're up against now. We've heard a lot of excellent points.
So in response to that, I have a testimony here from some people in where King of Prussia is in Pennsylvania. I'm looking for the township. I'll just read it to you quick. When township officials got word last year that a developer was eyeing sites for data centers, they got to work amending the community's zoning ordinance to regulate the facilities. They reached out to experts in the field and leaders in Loudoun County, Virginia, dubbed the data center capital of the world, with nearly 200 facilities that handle a sizable share of the world's internet traffic. They consulted their planner and listened to community members. We thought that we had a very solid ordinance, he said during a discussion Tuesday among township officials from around the Commonwealth. It was hosted by the Pennsylvania Association of Township Supervisors, PSATs, at the group's annual conference in Hershey. But only 10 days before the new regulations were to be submitted, what we're doing right here for board approval, the developer submitted nearly a dozen proposals to construct data centers in parts of the township that were zoned for office and industrial use. Under the Commonwealth's land use laws, Upper Merion Board of Supervisors Chairman Tina Garzalo said the new ordinance was adopted, but it won't apply to those proposals. You want to be able to set the rules, Garzalo said, urging township leaders to prepare for data center proposals before they arrive. And I almost texted Lily this afternoon and asked her, did anybody send a proposal? Because that was on my mind. It's been on my mind. We're not deliberating right now, but I just wanted to read that. This is a very real thing.
So what's our timeline here?
We can vote it through tonight.
I mean, I think everybody agrees there should be some precaution on the books, like what you have now, and then work. I think everybody's in agreement on that. It's safe for everybody. And what you guys did was a great job, and everything's fantastic.
Is there a risk if something is submitted now and then we're trying to work on it? Like, is there a downside to that? If we put this in and then we say,
I have two and a half pages here already of things that were suggested tonight that I think were really credible things to look into. Some Andy has already said, you know, we might not ask him to pay $1 million the first year, $4 million the second. And I think too, what he has suggested with a public hearing format, would continue ideas. And I don't know how many people's already said this. This is a changing thing.
Constantly.
And maybe we do change the size of the buildings to whoever had said that. So
let's do it. Let's put the Band-Aid on it now and then continue working on it.
Please cover it, you know?
Yeah.
She had a comment?
I just have a question. When it says the maximum building height for all buildings on the same parcel should be in accordance with the height standards set forth in underlying districts in which the tax parcel is situated, what is the height?
It's, so I honestly, I would have to go back into the zoning ordinance. So basically what we're saying is that it within different zones are different general requirements. Okay, that's.
I live across the street, this is a commercial zone, and I do feel there should be a buffer of people within that zone that should be a scaled response of, this is something I have to live beside. Anyone that has a school, daycare, whatever it might be, doesn't matter. It's within a certain proximity of the commercial zone, but how high can they go?
It's in the ordinance, I don't have it off the top of my head.
Honestly, I think that should really be addressed, because again, as technology improves, maybe they don't need spans, maybe they need just to go up, so consider that. Or down, good point. Too many things we don't know. Jen, what you
He's looking it up there. Any more comments? Oh, there you go. You can tell they stand and think about it.
So my name is Sierra and I am new to Codorus Township, and I do have a concern. There is nothing that I saw in the ordinance for continuous testing. I would like to see that go through. I know a lot of big companies, as soon as they get that approval, a few months later, they'll throw everything to the wind because no one's watching them. They're just like a little kid. You tell them no once, then when you're looking away, hand in the cookie jar. I don't want to see that happen in our township and use up any resources that could be better allocated to nature. Yeah, zoning. And we really need to break out our teeth on this because they will take us for everything we have. And don't think for a second that they won't. So I would like to see more intensive, continuous regulations put into the ordinance. Every month, every other month, do not make them complacent. Do not make them think that we turned our eye away. Okay?
Great, thank you. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, we got another.
Hey, my name's Stephen Quinn. I live at the other end of Schaefer Church right here. Realistically, how long would it take to add these amendments if we do pass that tonight?
So, if you pass this tonight, any amendment could be proposed at any public meeting, okay? The next public meeting will be the first Thursday in July. I would have to draft the amendment. You could then send it on to the Planning Commission, the Codorus Township Planning Commission. They meet the third Tuesday. Then it goes to the York County Planning Commission. A month and a half, 2 months, somewhere in that range is basically what you're looking at. That's moving it, but it's you also have to get the advertisement in. It has to be advertised, once a week for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper of general circulation. So you got to make sure that you got enough time to get that advertisement in 2 weeks in advance, so that you can actually have the hearing. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not like it takes a year.
So realistically, we'll be able to get that done faster than any of these companies are going to be able to try and add something into this area, because that takes a lot of planning. My biggest issue is 1, air quality, and 2, water quality. Because historically, both have been affected in all of these areas where these have been put in. For example, I got a 9-month-old daughter. She takes formula, and God forbid something's in that water, it is more likely to mess up a little girl like that than it is to mess up one of us. I agree with the last lady that spoke here. I think if something does go in, we need continuous testing, and we need to be on them about that. And we need strict standards for them to adhere by, because if we give them an inch, they will take a mile.
Thank you. Thank you. And Andy, I don't know if this is the time or place, but we do have a health ordinance that we passed several years, or quite a few years ago, that some of these concerns might already be addressed. Yeah, and that's something we need to look at. So, I know with air quality and water quality, we had, there's an ordinance already in place that helps with that. Yeah.
Chicken crowd.
Yeah, that was from the chicken crowd. So, anything else anybody wants to add? Is there anybody outside that needs to come in here and speak their piece?
Asking for the names and names. Goals.
Uh-oh, we have one more? Come on down. Come on down. I was wanted to say this.
I didn't plan to come talk, but my name's Daniel. No data center, please. I just don't want them. I know we talked about it.
Nobody does.
That's all I gotta say. Also, how much copper's in that thing? Because there's plenty of drug addicts in Hanover. How much copper's in this thing? All right, that's all I gotta say.
I like it.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we needed that one.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that did it.
Okay, because we have now reached the end of testimony here this evening, it would be appropriate for the chairman to close the hearing, and then we will directly move into the public meeting, the special public meeting, which has been advertised, at which time I believe the only thing on the agenda is the consideration of this ordinance. Is that correct? Yeah. So, just
Go ahead.
the hearing is closed.
The hearing is now closed for the general public, and we are going to move to the public meeting where we will discuss and talk about ratifying this ordinance. There you go.
Well, it's just that, it is up for the advertisement has been, the ordinance has been properly advertised, and it is basically up to the board at this point how they wish to proceed. The board may table this, they may vote to table it, they may vote to pass it, they may vote to not pass it. And so really, and you can feel free to deliberate this as much or as little as you wish here tonight. Oh, and I'm sorry, you're off the record.
Good.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You're excused.
Thank you.
Bounce him out, get back to your car.
Okay, guys, so, well,
So really,
I
not
kind of
to
want to
do
know what everybody, I mean, we've heard from everybody.
uh,
We've heard from everybody, inside and outside. How many people are still outside? Good. So, you can do this like they did it 200 years ago. How many people want the ordinance?
I do. You gotta get something.
How many people don't?
Well, that's step 2.
yeah.
Gotta get the ball rolling.
You gotta get the ball rolling.
What township do you live in?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, what township do you live in?
Right. Well, either way, so I think everybody coming out speaks volumes. This is awesome. I don't know how else to put it. There are things I haven't even thought about that you guys have talked about. I think I said that before. And now I will be, I'm sure my entire life will be consumed staring at the computer screen to try and figure this out. But, you know, I want to say that I appreciate everybody. Everybody has good points and coming out. And whether this moves forward or not, as we go, keep coming out. I mean, we can build a bigger building, you know. So, thank you.
Thank you all for everything you've done.
Jason, feel it?
No, I think we covered it well. I think we're ahead of schedule. I think, the public, yeah, it's never happened. We're in a tough position.
Very tough.
Very tough position. And, it's, all your concerns are duly noted, and we will continue to work. My thoughts are is that, we try to lump everything together, and try to change as much as we can, as quickly as we can, add to, not so much take away from. But we are left with the fact that if we don't pass this ordinance tonight, that we're very vulnerable. So if you guys are shaking your head, yes, I'll make the motion and we accept the ordinance.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
There was a dating ordinance, and I want to take off this.
There's a date ordinance.
I'll get it all cleaned up and I'll send it. So you guys can tweak it. I listen, brother. She still tell my wife. You should.
Thank you, Carolyn.
So before, just so that we can move into having conversation. Hold on, just a second, everybody.
Hold on.
You just need to do a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
The motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Carolyn?
Thank you all.
I currently live in Hanover, but I'm running for state representative for this district.
I was wondering if I'd see you.
I don't know.
I had to look up, see who you were.
Oh, yeah. I know a bunch of other boroughs, townships in the area working on their ordinances.
Thanks for coming out, man. I appreciate it.